Here we go. Hey, everybody, what's up? Yeah, hanging out with Jory today, and got my good host Chris Nagel with me today. And Kevin couldn't make it today, but we're going to come out here and talk to Chris today about mapping out the millionaire mystery. How's it going, Chris?
It's going good, man. Happy to be here again.
Yeah, Chris was kind of mad at me. He saw me with some shorts on a few minutes ago. Are you doing okay up there?
Dude, we've got a winter storm going. Like, I got to fly to Florida on Thursday, and I'll be lucky if I get out of here.
What part of Florida are you going to?
Destin. There's going out to speak at a mastermind, and then going to Salt Lake City after that.
Okay, got it. You're going to be going skiing, snowboarding, or what in Salt Lake City?
Yeah, Salt Lake. Yep.
Okay.
So going out there, it's a founders meeting for I guess you would call it a mastermind that we got started, but definitely going to hopefully get on the hill twice.
Awesome, man. Well, let's get started today. What you got? You guys know we got Chris once a month. He'll be joining us. I think it's the third Tuesday every month we're doing, right? But
that is correct.
We'll post in the group the schedule for that. But once a month, we're gonna have him come on here and kind of just break down some of the financial tips. He's been giving some of the best and the most wealthy people out there. Like you guys know, I started my policy with Chris a few months ago, so I've been talking to him a lot and networking and figuring some things out. So we want to get that same knowledge out to you. So here's episode 2 of that. So Chris, if you want to take it and just kind of let us know what you're going to get today.
I'll share my screen here real quick. All right. Bring her up on the screen there.
There we go.
Wonderful. All right, folks. So let's rock this thing. So what I'm going to show you today is I'm going to show you one of the biggest secrets of the wealthy, something I learned back a long time ago, and it wasn't something I learned being a financial advisor or doing what I do. This is something that I learned by other wealthy individuals and what they were doing with their money, how they changed just one thing. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about a little known but powerful wealth strategy that you can apply in your life. We're also going to talk a lot about how you can live like the wealthy using their exact same strategies. And I don't care where you're at, this system doesn't work for everybody, but pretty much will work for most people that are saving money today. And the other thing that this is going to do is I'm going to show you how you can pay off all your debts and how you can pay your expenses, but most importantly, how you can recycle and recapture all the money you're giving away to everybody else. And that is one of the biggest things we teach here is about taking back control of your money. And in taking back control of your money, the best way to do that is to take back the wealth that you give away to everybody else. Now, here's some things that we're not going to do today. Today, I'm not selling anything. So as we go through this, there is nothing for you to buy. There's no program for you to buy. There's no product for you to buy. I'm simply teaching you this concept and this system that I used and that we do for many people, thousands of people across the country, so that you can learn this. Now, the other thing I got to ask is, as you go through this, you're going to see some things that are completely opposite to what you've been taught about money and how money works. And I urge you to keep an open mind through this presentation and through this training. But most importantly, I can almost tell you, all of you are probably going to at one point or another say, that just looks too good to be true. So I want you to hold that. Jory's laughing because he said the same thing, as did I in 2014 when I first saw this. I said, there's no way that looks too good to be true. So we're going to cover that one. But before we do that, a lot of you that are watching this maybe don't know who I am. So real quick, I got a video just to get that out of the way. It'll kind of give you a little insight to who I am and what I've done. So let's play that real quick. All right. Well, we had the technology, but now I can't advance the screen. That's always, there we go.
Oh, there we go.
Chris Nagel is a nationally recognized entrepreneur from Western New York. In his 16 years of high-level experience in the financial services and advisory industry, he has managed over $30 million in assets, specializing in alternative investments, retirement strategies, and wealth accumulation. Using his expert knowledge in finance, he has successfully bought, innovated, and flipped hundreds of properties. Through his passion and success at real estate, Chris and his wife Larissa's renovation designs have been featured on HGTV's House Hunt, My Lottery Dream Home, and their very own show, Risky Builders. It all began was a 16-year-old with a t-shirt company in his mom's basement. A dream becoming a professional snowboarder, owning a skateboard shop at age 17, and a lot of imagination. Here he is. Welcome to the stage, Chris Noggle.
So that little video is just kind of giving you a glimpse of my past, the snowboarding. I mean, that lighthouse, we've jumped off that lighthouse so many times. It's like watching it. I just love seeing it. I know, that entire thing. So that's just a bit about the background and about what I've done. But let's get right back into it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to map out the Millionaire Mystery. And, for those of you that are watching this, right there, if you have additional questions, we'll give you info in the end so you can, set up a call to answer those questions for you. And right there is all my information. You can go to my website, which is chrisnoggle.com, or you can go to themoneymultiplier.com for more resources. We truly say this a lot, and I'll say it again. We give our best stuff away for free. So when you go to the website, when you go to my website, there's tons and tons of training videos, all free to you, so you can learn how to apply any business that you're doing or any personal uses. But let's get into this real quick. So there's a screen that says 5%, and there's a little guy there that's got a big smiling face, and then the rest of the people are pretty sad. So what is this screen actually showing you? Well, this is showing you what all of you are. Any of you that are watching this, you are the 5%. Okay. You are here to learn something that other people don't know. The other 95%, they're not on this training, and they won't be on this because they're out there doing something different. And the 5% is a very relevant number, because if I were to look at statistics, they would show something at Social Security. But let me tell you a story. If you right now went around and you found 100 20-year-olds, and you went to each one of those 20-year-olds and you say, will you be successful at the age of 65? The answer that you would get from every one of them, without even getting the question out, would be absolutely. I'm going to be a billionaire. I'm going to be a multimillionaire. I'm going to be wildly successful. They wouldn't even need to think about it. That would just be an inherent answer. But then all of a sudden, we take them from 20 years old to age 65. And something happens during that period of time from 20 to 65 that changes the dynamic. And that dynamic can be represented by this slide right here. Social Security did up this statistic, it's relatively new, and said that out of 100 people, only 5 of them will be financially secure at the age of retirement. So what the heck happened to that 100 20-year-olds? What happened to them during that period of time till they got to age 65? Because they were all certain they were going to be successful, but then at 65, only 5 of them are. And the difference is this: 5 of them decided to create. The other 95% decided to conform. And life has ways of kicking you in right between the legs, has ways of really bringing you to the ground. And a lot of people just say, I'm fine. I'm done with this. I'm just going to conform. That can't be you. Don't ever take the kick and then just never get back up, because that will make you the 95%. Okay. To be the 5%, you actually have to stand up and decide that you are going to be the light in the darkness. You are going to be the one that's going to determine it, and you're going to create your financial future. And that's what I'm here to help you do. And, you kind of heard a little bit about my story, but nothing different than most of you. I mean, I grew up in a lower middle-class family. My mom raised me. Dad was an alcoholic. And, even though that isn't the norm for a lot of people, that was my norm. And I had to do what everyone else was unwilling to do, just like all of you. You are the 5%. You're doing something that others are unwilling to do by being here today. By the 2000s, 2 major goals. You saw the professional snowboarding. I succeeded in that goal. It was not an easy one. And I also founded a skate and snowboard shop, which you saw, called Fat Man Board Shops. And then in that role, I became a financial advisor, and that went all the way up to 2008. I was making a bunch of money. And then in 2008, I bought a dilapidated paint store, started converting it into a strip mall of 3 rentable units where my store, Fat Man, was going to move into it. And then the Great Recession hit. And all of you in your lives at one point or the other have had that moment where you thought your life was going one way, and then all of a sudden, now it's going the opposite direction. And that was my life. I was brought to my knees by the Great Recession. So bad that I almost went bankrupt. I was literally 1 month. I had enough money in my account to pay that hard money lender 1 month, more. And after that, it was game over. Came home, my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife on the screen there, I said, sweetie, I need your help. I need your help paying the mortgage. I need your help paying the utilities. And by the way, my friend Pete has got to move into that bedroom down the hall. I had a 50-50 shot of keeping this girl, but that was all I had. That was my last shot. But I found out, I think she kind of liked me. She ended up marrying me and stuck around, and we made it through that. But then the next phase, 2009 to 14, I got into real estate and I started buying apartment buildings, pennies on the dollar. It was a great time to buy. And I kept doing it. And I got over leveraged. And by 2014, by my 37th unit, I took the deal to the bank, and the bank said no. And then the bank said, hey, Mr. Noggle, you don't fit in the little square box. So unfortunately, we have to freeze your lines of credit. And by the way, we're going to call one of those mortgages because you're late on your payments. That was a real kick in the you-know-whats. And in doing that, I was brought all the way down. So you can see my life's been this crazy roller coaster. Early 2000s, dot-com crash. I got a job as a financial advisor because I couldn't make it in my business. And then 2008, lost it all. 2014, lost it all. And at that moment, I was so down on my luck, and all I knew was the traditional financial knowledge that I remember getting a postcard in the mail, and it said, come to this 3-day seminar to learn how to flip houses. Now, I know all you're probably laughing, saying, what the heck? What are you going to a 3-day seminar? I'll tell you. I was going because they were giving away a free iPod Shuffle. That's what got me to that event. And when I got there, I remember it was 2 people specifically that I met there, okay, 2 of the speakers, Greg and Mike. And I remember hearing them talk about money and what they were doing with money, and it was the complete and total opposite of everything I'd ever learned about money. And at that moment, I literally dove in and I realized that I didn't know what I didn't know. And at that time, everything started to change because I questioned it all, questioned everything I was doing. And just like some of you in your lives, you know, bad things happen and you start questioning, why did that happen? Why do I keep riding this roller coaster? Why do these things keep happening? Well, the answer to me was presented in what I'm going to show you today. This is not the silver bullet, but I'll tell you what, it's the closest darn thing I've found to it in the financial world. So that's my story. Obviously, you saw the rest in the video with the HGTV show. We flipped 263 houses to date and done tons of stuff. And today, my whole mission, my life's work is to go around and teach people the truth about how money works. And more important than ever right now, look at the times, 2021. All I can tell you, and you guys don't need to believe me about this, but I know a thing or two when it comes to this, 2022 or 2023, somewhere in that range, it all falls apart. Okay. Yeah. So it truly does. And Jory knows this, and he's heard me talk about this. I truthfully, and I'm not going to get into that today at all, but I really do study this in nauseating detail. I surround myself around some of the greatest minds in the financial universe, or the U.S., I should say in the U.S., because not the world, but close enough. And economists and everybody else have a resounding similarity in what they're saying is exactly that. So if it's all going to fall apart, if the stock market's going to crash and burn, if we're going to start seeing similar times to 1929 sprinkled with the early 2000s, how do you prepare for that? Well, I'll tell you, it starts right here and right now with you taking back control of your money. And there's only a couple ways to do that. So let's dive in and talk about what this is. Now, I did tell you earlier that this is going to look and sound too good to be true. And I want to bring that back up. If this is too good to be true, then why is it being talked about in Robert Kiyosaki's book, Second Chance? Tony Robbins' book, Money Master the Game. Other books like 501k, Pirates of Manhattan. There's book after book after book, including my book, which I will give you all a copy of it for free, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery. All of these books are talking about this one thing that I'm going to show you, this system and this concept that most of you probably have not heard about. And this is the book that changed it all, Becoming Your Own Banker. So this book was written by R. Nelson Nash. He literally brought what the wealthy did down to the levels that all of us, you, me, and everyone else, use this in everyday life. So if it's too good to be true, then why is it being written about in all these books? Let's also talk about all of you. You all, I hope at this point, learned how to ride a bicycle. You guys, no matter how long it's been since you've been on a bike, you could probably get on a bike and you could ride it and have, probably some really good success. Some of you probably be riding wheelies and doing 360s. Jory would be doing flips. But anyway, we're not going to talk about the exception of Jory here. We're going to talk about you. How did you learn how to ride that bike? Well, at a young age, your parents gave you a little bike with training wheels, right? You got on it. You learned that when you turn the handlebar to the right, the bike goes to the right. Turn it to the left, it goes to the left. Pedal down, bike goes forward. Simple concept. And you got that down very quickly. Then your parents did something cruel. They took the training wheels off. And when they took the training wheels off this bicycle, what happened? You crashed. You crashed. You probably got bumps, bruises, scrapes, but you didn't quit. You got back on that bike and you learned how to ride it. Now, what would happen if I took that bike that you learned how to ride and I changed just one thing on that bike? What if I made your bike look like this bike on the screen? And believe me, you should wear a helmet when trying this one. And this bike is considered the backward bike. The only difference in that one change is that when you turn the handlebar to the right, the bike actually goes to the left. And when you turn it to the left, the bike actually goes to the right. How many of you think you could ride this bike? Some of you probably would say, absolutely, I could ride that. Oh, a little bit of practice, I could ride it. The answer is none of you could ride this bike. And if you don't believe me, then go to YouTube and watch the video, The Backward Bicycle, and you will see not one of you could ride this bike because it is against all the things you learned about how to ride a bike. And it was only one change. Why do I talk about this bicycle, this backward bicycle? Because the exact same thing has happened to you with money. Your entire life, you've been taught money works a certain way. You've been taught where to put money, how to store money, how to build money. And unfortunately, you have been taught wrong on most of the things because you have never been shown the way that wealthy use money every single day. And that is what we have to do today. We have to almost unwind and like take away the things you've learned and rebuild it. And it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy to change the way you learned how money works. We're going to give it a shot. And just like this backward bicycle, you certainly could learn how to ride this bike, but it would take practice and it would take you having or willing to learn how to ride it. Same thing about what I'm going to show you today. It might be backwards when it comes to how money works, but you certainly can learn how to do this. Jory did, and so he learned how to do this. So every one of you will be able to. But let's see how smart all of you are with money. Okay, let's talk about the mysteries of money. First off, what is the definition of money? Jory, what's the definition of money?
Money is basically something that you can spend for a good, right? I exchange money for a good. I give you money, you give me some kind of good or some kind of service.
Absolutely. Money is nothing more than a means of exchange. And that's all we do. We just exchange money. Doesn't matter what color it is, doesn't matter, what it looks like. Money, like this money I'm holding in my hand, is just a means of exchange for goods and service. Money for car for money. Money for food for money. That's all. So we got that one. That's an easy one. Okay. What company you can use in the world, it doesn't matter. What company uses compound interest? Now, many of you would say banks. Some of you would say Wall Street. Some of you might say a bunch of different things. But here's the answer. Not one company uses compound interest. Banks, which is the most common, do not use compound interest. What do? They charge you compound interest. They pay you compound interest. They do not use compound interest. And why is that? Because in order for them to use compound interest, their money has to sit. And banks do not let their money sit. Let me give you that example. How many of you have gone into your bank and you give the teller this $100 I'm holding, you give the teller the $100, and does the teller take that $100, go put it in your little box in the back with your name on it, and it just sits there till you come back? Absolutely not. The bank teller takes your $100, and before that $100 leaves your fingers, they're lending it out right behind you in the glass cubicles. The bank is moving your money. And that's what all businesses do. Grocery stores move groceries. Car dealerships move cars. Think of any business in the world. You guys are in real estate. You move real estate. Every single business is in the business of moving money. And the money comes in the form of inventory or just greenbacks like this one. So if they don't use compound interest, let's go to this one. Are your dollars worth more money today or in the future? Very simple one. The more money the government prints, the lesser your money is worth. Correct. It's called inflation. So as the government prints fiat dollars, every dollar they print steals value from your dollars. So your dollars today, every day, become worth less through inflation, which is a hidden tax. So it's safe to say that your dollars are worth the most today. They will never be worth more than they are today. And if you don't believe that, go back 20 years ago. How many candy bars could you have bought for $1? The answer?
Oh, probably two.
Yeah, two, three. The answer is more than today. That's the only answer, right? So Yeah. So your dollars are worth the most today. And how about taxes? Jory, do taxes go up or go down?
Always up.
Always up. And hell, even if they don't go up, don't they just find more crap to tax you on? You go to Florida because they don't have a state income tax. The New Yorkers are flocking to Florida because, well, New York sucks first, but number two, Florida has no state income tax. But what do you get once you land in Florida? You go to that Orlando airport, you're all psyched, you rent a car, you get on the thruway, and before you even get a quarter mile down the road, what do you hit? 2 toll booths. You're darn right. There's a toll booth every half a mile or a quarter mile. And those tolls are what? Taxes. They just find more things to tax you on. Folks, I'm just trying to get you to think about what's really going on out there. Now I'm going to hit you over the head. Where does most Americans, where do they store most of their cash? Well, if we go by the numbers, the answer would be retirement accounts, employer-sponsored retirement accounts, 401ks, 403bs, IRAs. That is where the majority of the money, over $40 billion, I think it's like 44 billion, it's probably more today, is sitting in employer-sponsored retirement plans. So when you think about all the things we just went through, the definition of money, who uses compound interest, your dollars being worth the most today, taxes going up or down, let's really talk about what we've been taught to do. I feel like this is like when we teach, our pets to fetch. This is what we've been taught to do. We've been taught to take our money and give up control of that money and put it in this vehicle, this retirement plan, so that someday later, 59 and a half is the number, after 59 and a half, that we can then take that money back. So we gave up control of our money in the hopes that that money will sit there and make more in the markets, which will go up and down. And then someday later, 59 and a half, we're going to take that money back out. Essentially, what did we just do? Well, we grew our money, hopefully, in the stock market. Number two, we compounded the tax because the taxes went up the whole time they were there. And when we took the money out, we had to pay tax on all of that money, unless it's a Roth. So instead of paying tax on the seed, we actually paid tax on the harvest. When you've always been taught, shouldn't you just pay tax on the seed, not the harvest? Precisely, but you're doing it backwards because we've been taught to do things with money that we would never, ever do with things that money buys. Let's dissect that one. Would you ever go to the grocery store and buy a nice Italian loaf of bread, come home, put it in the freezer, shut the freezer door, and then wait 5, 10, 15 years, come back to that freezer, open the door, take that loaf of bread out, look at it and go, yum. You wouldn't eat that. I'd mail that. I'd put that thing in a box and mail it to Jory, and he can open it up and be like, Chris, what are you sending me? It's a freezer burned piece of bread. That's it. You wouldn't eat it. Would you ever buy a car, your dream car, and wait 5, 10, or 15 years to go and drive that car? Highly unlikely. Or would you and your significant other or your spouse go and buy your dream house? And then right on the closing day, when you're about to get the keys, you look over to your spouse and you say, sweetie or honey, we're not going to move into this house for 5, 10, or 15 years. Would you ever do that? If you did, you might as well just take the ring, throw it away, because you ain't going to be married anymore and you're not going to be in a relationship. But you've been taught to do all of that with your money. Again, I'm just trying to get you to think about what's actually going on out there. And there is a big problem. You've been taught to give up control of all of your money. And how does your money actually flow? Let's do this cool little exercise. How many of you, somebody on here that's going to be watching this is going to want to buy a car this year. So we're going to pretend one of you is going to buy a $25,000 car. Now, there's 3 ways to buy a car, right, Jory? How can you buy it? Well, there's actually 4 ways to get a car, but let's talk about the 3. You can pay cash for a car. And if you do that, you exchange money for the car, you lose the earning potential on that money, and then you exchange it for a depreciating asset. You could do that. Probably the worst thing you could do. You could finance the car, which so many of us do. We go find the car, we finance the car, and we exchange monthly payments for the right to drive this depreciating vehicle. And then after 5, 6, or I think they finance vehicles up to like 20 years now. Just kidding, but am I? They finance the car, and then someday you own the car. It's dropped in value by half or more, but you paid for the car plus interest in principal. You could lease the car. Okay, many of you have leased the car. You exchange monthly payments for the right to drive the car. Then after 3 years or whatever, you turn the car back in, and all the money you just paid is gone forever, and you repeat that process. And the 4th way, you could always steal the car, but I'm not pretending any of you are doing that. So what we're going to do is we're going to pretend that one of you has need for a $25,000 car, but you also have $25,000, but you found a really, really good bank. and you deposited your 25,000 at this really good bank, and it's a really good bank because it pays you a guaranteed 4% interest, and you're psyched. Like, is anyone here making 4% on their money at the bank? Probably not. So it's safe to say you found yourself a really good bank. And I'm going to play your banker just because why not? So banker Chris, and you come into the bank one day and you say, banker Chris, hey, I got to take that $25,000 out that's earning 4% because I'm buying a car and I don't want monthly payments. And okay, if you do that, you stop the flow of that 4% interest when you take that money out. But I say, as your really good banker, I say, well, hold on a second, Jory. I know you want to buy this car, but how about we do this? How about our really good bank makes you a loan for $25,000 to buy that car? And we're going to charge you 6%. And we'll do it for 60 months, 5 years. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to collateralize that $25,000 loan with your $25,000 that is in the bank. And that way, Jory, your money gets to stay in the bank, earning 4% over that same time frame. And then you're just like, oh, this is a joke. You know, Chris, I thought you were a good banker, man. You want me to pay 6% when I'm only making 4%. And then I drop a bomb and I say, Jory, yeah, but our bank, this really good bank you got your money at, will pay you more money on that $25,000 earning 4% than you will ever pay us on that $25,000 loan at 6% over the exact same time frame. Now, Jory has a decision. He has to say, am I telling him the truth or am I flat out lying to him? Now, Jory's also thinking, Chris, you're out of your mind. 6% minus 4 means I'm losing 2%. So how is the bank going to pay me more on the money? It's math, folks. So here, let's do the math. That $25,000 car loan over 60 months at 6% is $483.32 a month. And if we do that times the full 60 months, you would pay $28,999 for that car. You bought the car for $25,000, the rest is interest. So how much money did your $25,000 that's earning 4% sitting in that really good bank end up being after that same time frame of 60 months? Well, if we did the math, it's $30,525. Now, unless you guys do math different than we do here in Buffalo, New York, that means that you made $1,526 more on your $25,000 earning 4% than you ever paid on that $25,000 loan at a higher interest, 6%. How can that happen? It's just math, but there's a simple, easy explanation. It is, number one, your $25,000 that is in the bank every year compounded and went up. So one balance went up, the car loan went down. So one's going down, one's going up, and that's how the math works on that. So there's no more secrets on that one. We'll come back to that in a moment. So what I'm going to show you is the money multiplier method. Very simply, we need 3 components to make this method work. Number one, we got to have a machine. If we're going to move our money the way the banks do, if we're going to make our money move as efficiently as possible, we need a really good machine. And that machine does exist. Most of you know about this machine, and we'll hit it in a second. But this machine just efficiently and effectively needs to, number one, give you control of your money, needs to pay you interest and compound interest on their money, and it needs to allow that money to go in and out of this machine. That's all it needs to do. So we need a good machine. Number two, we need to have some time. A lot of people want wealth and they want it tomorrow. Well, that's not the way it works. Life is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Well, building wealth is also a marathon, not a sprint. So it's going to take some time for you to use this system and build your banking system the way that I'm going to show you. So that's the downside. But the best part is the last thing that we need for this method is we need a goal. Well, maybe your goal is you want to be a millionaire. Heck, maybe you want to be a billionaire. We need to know what your destination is in order to solve that money problem. So now let's get into the machine. This is the part in every presentation, and I've done this presentation hundreds of times in stages with Grant Cardone, Ed Milet, all over the country. And every time I get to this point, this is where I look in the crowd and I try to figure out who's going for a bathroom break. And on these, I try to pay attention. What are the numbers? We're going to lose some people because when I tell you what this machine is, you will think you know what you don't know. So let's just get right into it. The machine is nothing more than a dividend-paying whole life insurance policy from a mutually owned company. Now, at this point, don't get up to go to the bathroom. Just hear me out. At this point, you probably are thinking, what the hell does a whole life insurance policy have to do with me building my wealth? And you know what? If that's what you're thinking, you are absolutely right. What the hell does a whole life insurance policy have to do with you building your wealth? The answer is everything, because this is what the wealthy do. This is what the millionaires and billionaires and the giant companies and the family legacies do. To name a few: the Rothschild family, the Rockefeller family, Walt Disney, Ray Kroc. You can use today, you can use Biden, McCain, who, passed. You could use Warren Buffett. They all use this. But you know what the best part about this is let's go to the banks. Who's really smart with money? The banks. Who's the number one purchaser of whole life insurance in this country and probably the world? It is none other than conventional banks. So why in the world would banks buy whole life insurance? It's either because they're stupid or maybe they know something we don't know. Well, for all of you that are still a bit confused at how this machine could be this whole life insurance policy, there's a few things you need to do. Number one, Google BOLI, BOLI. Okay, it stands for bank-owned life insurance, and you will find hundreds of pages pop up about how much money banks own of whole life. Banks are the number one purchasers of whole life. They own more whole life insurance than they do all the land in the buildings combined. Now, I don't know what city all of you are from, or what, maybe you're not even in the States, but when you go into a city, don't you see bank every branch? Aren't the biggest buildings banks? Bank of America, go to their balance sheet and look, and you will see that they own more whole life than they do all the land and buildings combined. So the answer is they know something you don't know. And they know what the wealthy have known for hundreds of years, because this system I'm going to show you, I didn't invent this. This has been around for hundreds of years. It's tried, it's tested, and it's failed. So with that being said, let's dive into, remember that last slide I did, mysteries of money, how your money flows, the car, and the really good bank. Well, I already asked you if any of you had a bank that pays 4%, and you all said no, because this example that I gave you, that's not a bank at all. That's a giant mutually owned insurance, and insurance companies do pay guaranteed 4% interest rates. And that is only right now for 2021. In 2022, that's going to change. This administration came out with a new law, 7702, which will change the guarantees on these. But it doesn't matter because you're grandfathered if you get your private bank set up before that. This is a bank. Not a bank, it's an insurance company, and insurance companies will pay you the guaranteed 4%. They will allow you to use that money without taking that money out of the account, and I'm going to show you how. But first, you got to understand how a bank works. If the secret to what the wealthy do is nothing more than the wealthy understand banking, and the wealthy mimic what the bank does every single day, then we got to look at what the bank does. And I got to teach you how to think like a bank. So first off, what do? We already talked about it. You go in and you deposit your earnings. You've been taught your whole life how to go out and make money and how to earn money. You haven't been taught how to make your money work for you quite yet. So you deposit your money in the bank, and let's use 100 grand. You go and you deposit 100 grand in the bank, and that bank pays you 4%. So now we're just using hypothetical numbers. So when you make that deposit to the bank, that is an asset to you. Doesn't it feel good? How many of you feel super good when you walk into the bank and you got your paycheck and you give the bank teller your money and you're like, oh man, deposits are fun. Man, I treat my bank like a country club. I used to go in there all the time. They had coffee ready for me. I had them get the creamer that I like. I mean, the bank literally has to be treated like a country club. The more times you visit, the better you feel. I just came up with that, Jory. I don't know where that one came from, but don't you feel good when you make a deposit in the bank? You do, because you are building your wealth and doing that, or so you think. The bank loves it too, but to the bank, when you first make the deposit, it's a liability to them. They owe that money back to you. They don't like that. So banks are really good at taking liabilities and converting them into assets. Well, what's an asset to a bank? It's called a loan. So what does the bank do? They take your 100 grand and they lend that 100 grand back out to your neighbor to go buy their dream house. And just like the exchange, they exchange a mortgage and monthly payments to the bank in exchange for the keys to the house. The bank gives them the mortgage. The buyer of the house exchanges it to the seller for the keys. And the seller does what? Deposits the money back in their bank, creating another liability. So the bank quickly turns around and loans that money back out to Jory. Sorry, I'm picking on Jory so much. It's just an easy target. And Jory buys that beautiful blue BMW M4 on the screen there. The bank lends him the money at 8%. Jory gets the keys, and then the dealership exchanges and puts the money back in the bank. Then Somebody wants to do a home remodel. They want to put a new kitchen in or a man cave. They get a home remodel loan, 9%. They pay the contractors. Contractors put the money in to the bank. And then lastly, you take a trip to Las Vegas. You put it all on red. It hits black. You lose all your money or your credit card gets racked up. You come back to the bank with your tail between your legs, if you have a tail, and you say, bank, I need your help. I racked up some credit card and I can't let my wife know. So can you give me a debt consolidation loan? And they say, sure, but we got to charge you 12%. You say, I don't care. They give you the 12% loan. You pay the credit card off. The credit card puts the money back in. Who was in control of every one of those transactions? If you said the bank, that's correct. The bank is in control of every single transaction there. And not only is the bank in control, how much risk did the bank actually take to do what they just did there? Not much.
Not much. No.
Not much at all, because the bank has collateral, the house, the car, the second on that. The only one that they're unsecured on is that credit card payoff, that debt consolidation, which they charged you 12%. So the bank is in control of your money. They're using and moving your money. They're making money on the whole thing. But how much money did the bank make? Let's do the math. The 4 they're paying you minus the 7 for the mortgage is 3. The 4 they're paying you minus their loan is 4. The 4 that they're paying you on your deposit minus the house remodel loan of 9 is 5. And the 4 minus the 12 is 8. If we add all that up, the bank made 20%. How many of you would be okay making 20% on someone else's money? All of you should have both hands up. Like, sign me up, man. Give me that. But you see, there's a problem here, and the problem lies in the math. The bank didn't actually make 20% on your money, silly boys and girls. The bank made 5 times more money than you did. 4 that they're paying you divided into 20 is 5. The bank made 500% more than you did on your money. And all the bank did here is moved your money because they have a system to do that. Folks, the whole reason I show this is so that you understand that you can do the exact same thing. You can't use other people's money. Okay, well, you can, but I'm not going to show you how to do that. But what you can do is mimic everything the bank just did and take back the banking functions in your life. And in saying that, a lot of people always try to call my bluff. There's always people out there that are naysayers. So they say, oh, banks don't make that much money on the money I leave there. That's not true. It's factual. Right there, Bauer Financial will show you. You can put in any bank for any time frame. All banks make between 400 and 1,300% more than you do on the deposits you leave there. And it's okay, because every single corner of every city, town, anywhere you go, there is a bank. You have to go far to deposit your money, and they've made it so. And aren't they the nicest buildings on every corner? Sure are. Not only that, how many of you, when you go in and you make your deposits, you know, I love it. When I was using my bank as a, before, this is pre-COVID, as a country club, I'd go make my deposits, and right above, always, there's always like a little mug sitting up on the corner. And I'm a short guy, I'm 5'4", and I got to look up and I'm like, oh, what's in there? And you pull it out and you're like, oh, suckers, sweet. You know, you pull out any flavor you want, strawberry, lime, grape, you unwrap it, you enjoy that. And you're like, all right, come on, make my deposit here. I'm feeling good about my deposit. And then you slowly unwrap the wrapper and you look at it. What does it say? Every bank I've ever been to has the same kind of sucker. And you know what it is? Dum-dums.
Yeah, definitely.
Every single bank, man. I don't know how it is in other countries, but here in the States, I haven't been to one that doesn't have Dum-Dum brand suckers. There's something to that. My wife even figured out before we had our little one that she could go to the bank a certain time of the month, and they always had wine tasting. She'd go and say, oh, Chris, I'm going to go to the bank and make deposits. I'm thinking, all right, 15 minutes, she'll be back. Hour goes by. I'm like, sweetie, are you okay? Yeah, I'm still at the bank. Well, weren't you just making a deposit? There's a line out the door. No, they had wine tasting, and Jill's here, and Susie just showed up. Oh, okay. And then she comes home with an umbrella or a toaster. Anyway, I'm just trying to show you that they're putting good use to that 400 to 1,300% that they're making. So I'm going to go really quick with this, but this one shows you the annual pattern of spending statistically of Americans. Out of every single dollar that we make, 20% of that dollar will be spent on automobile expenses. All things automobile, insurance, the gas, everything. 20 cents of every dollar goes to that. Housing, 30 cents of every dollar. Any of you that have bought a house, they'll finance up to 31% of your adjusted income, right? 31%. So 30 cents goes to housing. Everything else, 40%. all those vacations, the groceries, all the other things, 40% of your money is that. 10% is about what's supposed to go to savings. But if we really reverse engineer that, how many of you really love the way that looks, right? You're saving the smallest amount, and 90 cents of every dollar you're making is going to somebody else. So what if we had a method? What if we had a way to take back that dynamic? What if we could change that savings that you're doing without having to work any harder, without you having to take on any risk, without having to give up control of your money? What if all you had to do is change one thing, add one step to your life, and you could change the dynamic of what that savings looks like and build wealth a different way? Because really the best way to build wealth is just take back some of that 90 cents that you're giving away to everybody else. So if we did automobiles, instead of financing automobiles and giving monthly interest and principal checks to somebody else, what if you were able to pay that monthly interest and principal check to your bank? Well, if you did that, you would be able to take back the equivalent of 5 cents of that 20 cents that you're giving away. And in doing that, you just increased your savings by 50%. Keep going. How many of you have looked at your mortgage statement recently, right? You get your mortgage statement in the mail, you look at it over. I want, in your first 7 years of buying a house, look at the principal and the interest column, and I want you to really do the math. And what you will find is that 80 to 85% of every monthly mortgage payment is going to interest in the first 7 years. You see, banks, I already said it earlier, I want to say it again, banks are so freaking smart. They really are. Banks have figured out that doing mortgages for people is a good business, but you know what? They want all their money up front. And who wouldn't, right? We all want our money up front. So the bank said, you know what? We're going to design these mortgages so that all the interest is front loaded in the first 7 years. It's called the velocity. They're winning on the velocity of the money. They don't really care what the mortgage rate is. They don't care that it's 2%, 1%, 3%, because they're getting all their money up front in the first 7 years. Why 7 years? Well, how many of you have ever done the math and figured out how often you move or how often you refinance your mortgage? What you will find is it is every 5 to 7 years. Banks know this. They've done the math. They've done the statistics behind it. They know that the average person is going to move every 5 to 7 years, or rates are going to reset and come down or go up, and they're going to refinance. We'll see what happens in the future with these rates, but hey, that's statistically what happens. So they get all their money up front. So who's winning in that one? The bank. And what if you didn't need the bank? What if you could be the bank and pay all that interest to yourself? Well, this would be the change. Out of that 30 cents, you'd take back 25 cents of that money. And everything else, you use credit cards. 40 cents of every dollar, but use credit cards for some of that. And you don't always pay them off. So if we were able to take back the interest that you pay to the credit cards, you'd be able to take back about 5 cents. So I want you to look at this now. Doesn't this look better for you than the one I showed you a bit ago where 90 cents was going to somebody else? Now look at how much money you're keeping. And you didn't change anything here except for who gets the money. And you get the money here. But that's exactly what happens when you learn what we're going to show. But now, look at that bad boy. Anyone see the movie Gone in 60 Seconds?
Oh, yeah.
For many men, okay, and maybe women too. I don't mean to, talk just men, but there's a special thing about this car. When I saw that movie, in my brain, something happened. And I said, I have to have that. That's Eleanor, right? You want Eleanor? We all love Eleanor. So what if I could show you how to get all the money back for every single car you're going to buy, drive, and own into the future? And what if that was actually real? It's not some fictitious thing. Well, I'm going to show you right now how to do that. So I know we've kind of gone through a bunch of stuff up to this point, and some of you are thinking, get to the point, dude. Well, I'm going to get to the point, but I'm just going to show you this. And before we get to that, remember, we're talking about a specially designed and engineered whole life. I mentioned this is going to be a whole life, the machine, but it is not a regular whole life that you buy at the life insurance store. This isn't you call your Allstate guy, not to pick on any companies in transparency, but you call your Allstate guy and you say, hey, I want one of those banking whole life thingamajiggers. He's going to send you an illustration that's not going to look anything like what I'm going to show you. These are specially designed and engineered. The same way the bank uses these is the way that we design these, and they work totally different than life insurance. They work just like a bank account. So when we look at the machine and we open the hood, what we first have to understand is when you make your payments on insurance, you're making what? Premium payments? That doesn't sound good, does it? How many of you love making premium payments? You know, you pay your car insurance, you pay your homeowner's insurance, you pay your term life insurance. That premium is money going out and you don't know when it's going to come back. So we already talked about deposits and that warm and fuzzy feeling you get when you go into your country club, i.e. the bank, to make deposits. So when we do deposits into this specially designed and engineered whole life, taking a premium deposit, we need to think of this as being just an extension or another bank account. So you are indeed making deposits. Secondarily, as soon as I say whole life, somebody on here is going to be like, I'm too old. Well, what if I told you age doesn't really matter? What if I said a 30-year-old and a 60-year-old could put the same amount of money into the same, specially designed and engineered whole life, and they'd have the same amount of cash at the end of it? That doesn't make any sense. You'd be like, well, that can't be. It is, but there'd be one big difference, and it comes in the death benefit. You see, when we design these, we design them backwards. I've never met a person in my life that cares more about money somebody gets the day they graduate. Nice way of saying the day you die. Okay, graduate is die. I've never met anybody that cared more about the money that somebody gets the day they graduate more than they care about the money they have today to live. True or true? So the death benefit, when we design these, we design it with the lowest death benefit possible, the highest cash, because that just seems to fit our goals for banking. So let's get into the car. All right, let's see, how do we buy a car and get all the money back for all the cars we're going to buy, drive, and own? Well, first, we got to change that one thing. We got to change where our money goes first. Today, your money goes to 401ks, goes to savings. So I'm just talking about the money that you save. So if you were going to buy a car for cash, you'd have to save money somewhere. Most people would use a savings account. What if we just change one thing and we change where that savings goes first? And we put it into this specially designed and engineered whole life where it's going to earn 4% plus dividends as of 2021. Here's how it would look. Let's just say somebody, and this is just an example, somebody's going to put $10,000 per year. And it doesn't matter how you put the money in monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, annually, any way you want to put those premium deposits in, you can. And you do this for 7 years. Well, each year that you put money in, you're going to have money available. This is a terrible example because I'm using just guaranteed values. But if you put 10 grand in this example, in year one, you'd have 5873, almost 60% of the money you deposited that you could take out immediately in the first 30 days. But then you do this for 3 years because you're saving up to buy a car. By the third year, you've put 30,000 in, and you actually, in your cash value in the money multiplier account, had 29,204. That's 25 plus the 4204, just for those of you that are wondering where I came up with 29,204. But what we're going to do is we're actually, instead of going to the bank and taking a loan, we're going to take a loan from our bank, which is this vehicle right here, the specially designed and engineered life. So what you do is you literally go log into your account, you click one button, and you have that money sent to your bank account, and it happens within 36 hours. So 36 hours later, you got 25 grand in your bank to pay for the car. And you do that, you pay for the car. Now, if you had used somebody else's bank, what would you have had to do? Well, if you were financing it, you would have had to exchange monthly payments, principal and interest. But now here, you took $25,000 from your bank. And it is very important that you treat your money, your bank's money, the same as you would treat someone else's bank's money, because your money is just as important as the bank's money. So if you did that and you took a loan, wouldn't it make sense to make payments back to your bank the same you'd give payments back to somebody else's bank? So we're going to just assume that you just change the name on the check, and instead of writing the check to Bank of America for your car loan, you write the check to Bank of You, and you make $500 monthly payments back to your bank every month in exchange for that car. Now, if we just look at the math behind that, because all we did here, folks, is we changed where the money went first, and we changed who got those monthly car installment payments. And those payments went back to your bank, shown here. Over 7 years, you put 70 grand into your banking system. 10 grand times 7. You also made $500 monthly payments every month for the purchase of that car. So you paid $30,000 over 5 years back to your bank. The cool thing about that is that 30 grand that you would have given away to somebody else, you now have available to you. So you put 100,000 in total into your banking system over that 7 years. But then you took 25 grand out to buy a car. So your net injection into your banking system is $75,000. So I know there's a lot of numbers. Just stay with me. $75,000 is how much you put in, And after year 7, you have $67,881 plus a fully paid for car in your driveway. How much did you get back for that first car? Well, you got 91 cents of every single dollar back for that first car that you bought. But some of you are like, well, that's pretty good. I've never gotten 91 cents back for every car that I bought without having to sell the car. Well, here you did. But some of you are thinking, yeah, Chris, you said 100%. You said all of the money back. Right. So what happens after a car gets to be 5 years old? Seriously, like think about your 5-year-old car. What happens? It needs brakes, needs tires, and it loses that new car smell. Your car, after 5 years, I'm sorry, as much as you try with the air fresheners, it does not have that new, fresh, new car smell. So what you have to do now is you have to go shop for cars. We all have done this. You go to the dealership, honey, we're just going to look. And you walk around, and you guys know how this works, and you see the one you like, hey, can I sit in it? You get in it, you shut the door, you grab the steering wheel, and you do this. Oh, it's that new car smell. And what happens? You're filling paperwork out and you're buying yourself a new car. So year 8, we're going to buy a new car. But you know what we're not going to do in year 8? We're not going to deposit any more money in our bank. This is just an example. Never, ever would I tell you not to deposit money in your banking system. And we'll get to that the reason why later. But here, no money goes in from year 8 to 12. But we buy the car. We take $25,000 out of our banking policy to go buy the car. And then what we do is the same thing as before. We make monthly payments of $500 back to our bank. So after 5 years, you've put in 0 money in deposits. $30,000 has been the amount that you paid back to your bank instead of someone else's bank. But then you bought a car. So you took 25 away from that 30. So your true net injection is $5,000. So at this point, we're 12 years in, 2 cars later. Both of those cars have value and are sitting in your driveway, bought and paid for. Your plan from year 7 to year 12 grew by $23,592. But that's not how much money you made. That's just how much money your plan grew. Let's figure out how much money you actually made for buying 2 cars here. Well, let's do the math. Remember, years 1 through 7, you put 75 grand in net. Okay. So 75 in the years 1 through 7, but then year 8 through 12, the net amount we put in after buying the car was $5,000. So 75 plus 5 is $80,000. Your true net injection is 80 grand. Now, for all of you watching this, how much money is in your cash value in the money multiplier account that we're talking about in year 12? If you can see it, it's underlined 91,000. So how much money did you make after buying these 2 cars? The answer is $11,473. You literally made $11,473 for buying these 2 cars. And all you did, folks, is changed one thing, and that was where your money went. But there were some rules. Let's be honest. Rule number 1, you had to pay your bank instead of somebody else's. So you had to make deposits into your bank. Rule number 2, you had to treat your money the same as you treat the bank's money. So in other words, you had to be an honest banker, and you had to pay yourself back with interest. I don't know why people struggle with that, Jory, because think about that. Like, how hard would it be? You make monthly payments to someone else's bank with interest. Why would it be hard to make that same monthly payment to your bank? And then you get to keep all the money. People struggle with that, but that's a rule. You have to do that. And rule number 3, you have to recycle and recapture all of the money that you used to give away. So there's the rules real quick. Pay yourself first, pay yourself with interest, recycle and recapture the money. And if this works for a car, what else does it work for? Planes, trains, automobiles. Yeah, you guys get the drift. Real estate, it works for everything. I just showed you a car because it's easy. So if you guys like that, I'm happy. Like, that just showed you a really neat technique on how to buy cars and get the money back. But what if I told you that's not the best part about this? This next thing I'm going to show you is what really, really made me look at this and say, oh my gosh, that's too good to be true. So let's do a real case study. You see, most people have debts. Now, if you don't have any debt, folks, this might not be as exciting to you, but if any of you have debt or have had it in the past, you might really like this. This is one of our actual clients that we got permission to. And this client was none other than a 47-year-old chiropractor. This chiropractor saw us present this somewhere. I can't remember where. And he came up and he said, I got a problem. I need your help. Can this work for me? And he had 9 third-party debts totaling $478,774. You can see it right there. Discover, Lowe's, Nordstrom, Wells Fargo, private loan, BMW loan, a boat loan through West Marine, a condo, and a house. Okay. all those debts, and you can see the duration of payments left, the APR he was paying to somebody else's bank, and the monthly payment he was paying to somebody else's bank. $478,000 in debt, of which add up all those monthly payments was $5,777 a month. That's enough to make some people puke. That's a lot of money going to somebody else every single month. And this chiropractor said that same exact thing. I can't do this anymore. So what we said is well, we think we can help you. But first, we need to know how much money you're saving today. And the chiropractor said, well, I get people that come in and they pay with insurance. That money runs the business and pays my salary. And then I also have some people that come in and pay cash. And that cash goes into savings. So he did some quick math and he says, okay, it works out to be about $30,000 a year. And we said, okay, well, let's use 25 of that so you keep an emergency fund. So we said, would you be willing to take that 25,000 of savings and just change what bank that money goes into? He says, no, what's the difference? And we said precisely. So that's what we would do. We're going to change the bank. It's not a bank, but it's going into your bank where that money goes first. But first, before we did that, we wanted to scare him a little. We said, all right, well, let's just take the 25,000 you're saving every year. We'll just dump that on top of the debt. And we did the math and we said that will only take you 19 years to pay off all your debt. That's not what he wanted to hear. 19 years of his life, he's got to live and do this. That just wasn't. So we said, all right, Mr. Chiropractor, we're just messing with you. How about we do this in 6.5 years and we wipe all the debt out? And the best thing, Mr. Chiropractor, you don't have to save any more money. You don't have to work any harder. You don't have to put in any more overtime. You don't have to lose control of your money, and you don't have to take on any risk. All you need to do is change which bank that money goes in first and follow this process that we're going to build for you. And this is called the mapping process. We do this for all of our clients. We don't charge a penny for this. We just do it as a service, because it's one thing to have that machine, which is everybody's focused on that whole life. But the most important thing is not the whole life. It's the process of what we do to solve the money problem. This is that process. So let's start year one. Year one, the chiropractor, $478,000 in debt, changes where that 25 grand goes. That 25 grand gets deposited into this specially designed and engineered whole life built for this particular purpose. Immediately within the first 30 days of making that $25,000 deposit, the chiropractor takes out a loan against his banking policy for $14,863. It's about 60% again. Okay, we're using very conservative numbers here. Jory knows this because I've built his plan. Some of the plans we design, you can take out 90%. But why would I show you the 90% plan? I want to show you the worst option. This is actually the chiropractor's plan, 60%. Puts in 25. Immediately in the first 30 days, we take out a $14,863 loan against his policy. Now, do remember that when we take a loan, we're not actually taking the chiropractor's money out of his account. We're taking a loan from the insurance company. That loan that is coming out of their general account is just then adjusted against their death benefit. So the chiropractor then, his death benefit reduces by $14,863. So if he never pays this loan back, it wouldn't matter because his death benefit just got reduced. But I'll show you how we do that. So we use the $14,863. And what are we going to do? Well, we're going to pay off Discover. We're going to pay off Lowe's, and we're going to pay down Nordstrom. In doing that, what we just did is we freed up $161 that we used to give to Discover. We freed up $287 that we used to give to Lowe's, which those interest rates were 21% and 11%. After the first year, the chiropractor is now $463,000 in debt. He's now only making payments of $5,329 to everybody else, and he has $448 a month that he used to give to Discover and Lowe's that he now has the ability to do whatever he wants with. So we say, okay, well, here's what we're going to do, Mr. Chiropractor. We're going to take that $448 a month. And what we want you to do is go to your local bank, wherever you bank, okay, the Bank of Chiropractor. And I want you to set up a bill pay for $448 to basically deposit that money into a newly created checking account. And we're going to call that new checking account at this bank the segregated account. It is literally nothing different than a checking account at your bank, but it's segregated to only do what I'm going to show you. So now this chiropractor sets it all up. It's out of sight, out of mind. The 448 used to go to somebody else, but now it's going to go into his bank account. So go to year two. Now that you kind of know what we're doing, we're going to just keep repeating the process. He deposits in year two another $25,000 into his banking policy. He immediately in the first 30 days takes out $16,571. Okay, notice how that number went up. Welcome to the world of uninterrupted compound interest. Every year that number will go up because every year you're compounding on a higher amount. And how much are you making? 4% plus the dividends, almost 6% in some plans that we do. So we take $16,000 as a loan immediately, but then that $448 that was going into that segregated bank account at your local bank is $5,376. So we're going to take that money out of that bank. So the combination of the loan plus your bank account that you saved is $21,945. So we're going to then pay off Nordstrom, pay off Wells Fargo, pay off the private loan, and pay down the BMW. We freed up a lot of money here. That Wells Fargo credit card was dinging him 21%. And all that money will to basically make it so that now the $448 he was saving the first year, now he's got $1,917 that he just freed up. That's $1,917 that used to go to somebody else that now goes into his bank account, and it's all automated. So he's now $378,000 in debt, $3,860 going to everybody else's bank, $1,917 of that monthly payment is now going to his bank. So we repeat the process. Year 3, and this is where it gets super fun. So year 3 is a magic number when we design these plans, because year 3, this chiropractor does the same thing, deposits that 25 grand in banking policy, and immediately goes to take a loan. And when he does that button, when he clicks the button on the line, he's like, holy cow, I have $25,541. How can that be? Again, uninterrupted compound interest at work. Albert Einstein talked about uninterrupted compound interest a lot. Called it the 8th wonder of the world. Not a big deal. The most powerful thing in the financial universe. No big deal. He said, those that understand compound interest earn it. Those that don't, pay it. So you can see the chiropractor is now learning the power of the 8th wonder of the world as per Albert Einstein. So here we go. We got $25,541. He deposited 25, took out 25,541. The cool thing is from this year on, every time he makes deposits into this account, he will take more money out than he puts in. Then that $1,917 every month that used to be paid to all those creditors is now in his account is 23 grand. So the combination of the loan plus that segregated bank account is 48,545. So what are we going to do? We're going to pay off BMW, pay off that boat loan, and pay down the condo. We're 3 years in. Now he's only $283,000 in debt. Okay, his monthly payment to everybody else is now only $2,100, not $5,777, and $3,677 is the amount he freed up. Now you do see there's some diligence, for this guy. He has to be willing to save that $3,677 that he was giving away. And how he did that, just so it's out of sight, out of mind, he just set up auto bill pays or automatic transfers so that every month the same amount's coming out as it was before, except for now he's paying his bank, not somebody else's. So the marathon that I talked about earlier, remember I said this is a marathon. This was 3 years. And over the 3 years, he put in 25 grand each year, $75,000 he injected into his banking system. But each year he took that money out as much as he could. He took 14 the first year, 16,000 out as a loan in year 2, and 25,000 plus in year 3. Essentially, he took $55,000 out. Now, most of you would do the math and you'd say, how much money does he have left in his policy? You would take the 75 minus the 55 and you say he's got 20 grand. That's because you're used to regular banks. And if you did deposit 75 and you took 55 out, you indeed would have $20,000 left in your regular bank. And your regular bank would only pay you interest on that $20,000. But again, this isn't a regular bank. This is a mutually owned insurance company. And the mutually owned insurance company here is not paying you interest and dividends on $20,000. No. They're paying you interest and dividends on the full $75,000. Because when you took those loans out, that 55 grand, again, I said it earlier, but it didn't come from your account. It came from the insurance company's general account. They gladly gave you a loan and you didn't have to fill out applications or credit checks or anything like that. You just click a button. The insurance company in a contract says, we'll give you loans anytime you have up to the amount of cash value you have in the plan. So that 55 was nothing more than an advance of this chiropractor's death benefit. So now that you understand how we're making uninterrupted compound interest, how we're making that interest on the full amount, even when we're able to use the money, you now know. This is the only vehicle on earth that I know of that allows you to do this. There is no other vehicle. This is why these stupid, specially designed whole life policies are the only vehicles that have been used for hundreds of years by the banks and the wealthy families. All right, let's get to it. Year 4. Now we're going to blaze through this. Year 4, it does the same thing. Deposits 25, immediately takes out 26,304 as a loan. had that 3677 going into that segregated bank account. So that's $70,000 in year 4. So what are we going to do? We're going to pay down the condo. But when we pay the condo down, it drops his debt down to 187, but it doesn't change his monthly payments, because if you pay down on mortgage, does it change your monthly payment? No, it does not, folks. So he's still paying $2,100 to everybody else, but still $3677 is going into his account. So year 5, he deposits $25,000. Look at that number now. See that compound interest working in his favor? Puts 25 in. Now he takes out 27. How many of you would be psyched to walk into your local bank, put 25 grand in, come back 30 days later and take out 27,000? You'd feel like you did something really right, wouldn't you? Yeah, well, you just did. That's what you would do here. The 3677 now is 5467 in that segregated account. So we got 81 grand left. So year 5, we pay off the condo and we pay the house down. We're 5 years in to what he thought was going to take him 19 years. He now only owes $80,000 on his primary residence. His monthly payment to everybody else is $1,221. He's saving $45.56 in his segregated account. Not new money. It's all money he gave away before. It's now his money. He could quit right here and be ahead, but you never quit when you're this far along. You got to finish the game. So let's go one more year. Year 6. So year 6, he goes to deposit that 25 grand, but the insurance company says, I'm sorry, Mr. Chiropractor, you can't deposit 25 grand. You hit your IRS MEC limit. Therefore, we're only going to let you put in 10,000. There are rules, folks. The IRS does not allow you to just put unlimited amounts of money into these. This chiropractor in year 6 could only put 10,000 into the plan, not 25. But he puts the 10 in, and he immediately in the first 30 days takes out $13,092. Let's do the math there. If you put 10 grand in and you take 13 out, what was your return on your money? What was your cash on cash return? Well, some of you are thinking, well, Chris, that's 30%, my friend. You're right. It's a 30% cash on cash return. It's just math. It's right there. That chiropractor was so thrilled that he said, you know what? I want a second office. I want a second branch office of my bank. I'm going to open a second policy. So we did. We started a second policy for 25 grand. As soon as that was open, immediately we took a loan for 14,863. So the first policy's loan was 13. The second policy's loan was 14,863. Plus that money he was saving, that 45.56, is 69,000 in that segregated account. So we got a total of 97,588. What are we going to do? We're going to be debt free. Chiropractor, 6.5 years after starting, was 100% debt free. $5,777 every month is going into his bank. And he has some money to spare. Now what he's going to do is he's going to take that money and pay his loans back to his policy. Folks, like, I didn't do anything crazy here. I didn't do anything silly. He didn't save any more money. He didn't take on any risk. All he did is started that stupid whole life policy that we were talking about this whole time. And again, it is not a regular whole life. So that debt map that you just saw, this is what we create for every client. Every client we have, we create a debt map. And we go 2 years into the future showing you exactly how this will look with your situation. You see, the machine doesn't work without a plan. And the plan we do for you. And we map this out. We manage this. Picture like owning a bank. You got your salespeople that sell the loan to you. And then you got your back office people that track the loan payments, the loan interest. We're the back office for you. And there's no cost. We don't charge for that. Remember that one goal was to become a millionaire. You need a goal. And how do you get to your goal? Well, same thing. How do you eat an elephant? I would guess one bite at a time. I'm vegetarian, so that's a bad topic for me. But how do you get to the top of a mountain? One step at a time. You don't just fall on the top of the mountain. And some of you are like, well, Chris, I don't have any debt. This won't work. Is it really possible to owe no man nothing? No. You're always going to have taxes, expenses, vacation homes, everything. Now, remember that chiropractor. Let's just do a quick example. If he followed the bank's plan with his condo and his house, this is how much money he would have paid back to someone else's bank, $493,000. Now, because he doesn't have to pay somebody else's bank, he can pay his bank. That's $493,000 that he gets to keep in his account. But this chiropractor said, you know what? I just learned something neat. Those loans I was taking out, I have to pay interest on those loans to the insurance company at a rate of roughly 5%. It's between 4 and 5%. He said, why don't I just take the money that I would have given away to the bank, and why don't I just pay my loans back to my policy? Even though he didn't have to pay those loans back, he did. Why? because he's an honest banker. He didn't want to steal from his bank. So he pays those loans back. And then by doing that, all of that money is now making 4%. So if we did nothing else besides put a perpetual tailwind of a 4% guaranteed return behind the money he would have given away to his mortgages, he now gets to keep $749,000. It's a much bigger number, but that's how big of an impact compound interest has on his future. So now you know this. It's very important that you start telling people about it, but they will absolutely tell you that sounds too good to be true. That must be a scam. Well, you just saw it work right there, and it's not a scam. It's been around for a long time. And by the way, we didn't even talk about a death benefit. But if you ever graduate with these plans, somebody's going to get a death benefit tax-free. We did talk about the loans and how they never need to be repaid because they're just in advance of the death benefit. How about taxes, right? We talked about taxes going up. Well, what if all of the gains, all of the internal values in this plan, zero taxes? If they're built properly and structured properly, like what we do, it will remain tax advantaged and tax free. That's not too shabby. And then these policies, they're exempt from judgments and liens. You guys all know of O.J. Simpson, right? He used to play for the Bills, so I very much know him, and he was in a bunch of movies. I use O.J. Simpson very simply because you all know. And whether he did or did not do those horrible things that he was, in court for, the one fact of the matter remains that he got sued more than just about any other person that we all know about. And if you look up O.J. Simpson's net worth, you will find that he is still a millionaire. I think a multi-millionaire. How can that be? Well, it's right there in front of you. See, in certain states, these plans are exempt from judgments and liens. He might have gotten sued that many times, but they couldn't get the money that his advisors put into these vehicles. You see, he actually learned something, and because of that, he protected his money just like doctors and surgeons and everybody else does using this. You guys know this guy, Warren Buffett. If poor people would just do what rich people do, they wouldn't be poor anymore. I will say this. There's no way I'd ever get away with saying that statement, but Warren Buffett can say it, and it's actually true. Only one of two things happens to us. We live or we die. And the question is, are we better with this system or without it? I'll let you answer that one. And this is my favorite slide, and this is where I wrap up with you guys. Will Rogers, he says this. He says, the problem in America isn't so much what people don't know. The problem in America is what people think they know that just ain't so. You now know something, but you thought you knew what you didn't know because you thought you knew how whole life worked, and now you just learned that it can work a different way. So right there, if you want to set up a time with us to ask more questions, because I know this is kind of quick. I wanted to get through this in a reasonable amount of time, and I'm sure you have tons of questions. So right there, you just text Money Multiplier to 33777. You will then, on your phone, get our calendar. You can pick any day you want, and all we're going to do when we get on the phone with you is answer your questions. And if here's one commitment I'll make, if anyone ever tries to sell you anything, whether it's me, Gabby, Steven, Brent, if they try to sell you anything, call me and I will send you a huge box of free stuff, because no one here will ever sell you anything. We will simply solve your money problems and answer your questions. So folks, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Jory, for allowing me to do that presentation.
Oh, no. Thank you, Chris, man. I appreciate that. And the thing what you said is so important too, is that you will hear people say, hey, this is too good to be true. Or I get a lot of people say, hey, I called my insurance agent. They don't know what this is, right? Because people don't know what they don't know, So that's the most important slide that you gave. But hey, Nelson Nash, I read his book. It opened up my eyes. I saw you on a Steve Training show like a week later, and I started digging into it. And I got my own policy set up in December. So it is true, and Chris is 100% right. I'm not going to try to sell you anything, but don't answer any question you have. So give him a call. Reach out to him, get his free book, and start digging into it.
Yeah, and guys, remember I said it earlier, but you guys can get this free book. Just go to chrisnoggle.com. One swipe of the index finger, and that's kind of a unique thing. We made it that way. One swipe up, and you will see free books. So grab a copy of the Millionaire or Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, or you can get my other book, The Private Money Guide, whichever one suits your fancy. And thank you.
Hey, thanks, Chris, man. Thanks for joining us, bringing us this information. We'll see you guys again next month with Chris. We'll be going, a little bit deeper into some certain different types of ways to use these policies. We're going to get into how we use them for real estate, for investments, how we use them to loan money, and all kinds of things like that. So, hey, appreciate the time, Chris. Once again, shut up and invest.
My pleasure. Thanks.